Good evening, sir. May I ask you what you're doing here at this late hour?
I'm conducting an investigation about the epidemic in this part of town.
And who are you, sir?
I'm Dr. Jonathan Reed from the Pembroke Hospital. May I ask who you are, and why all the questions?
I'm Detective Inspector Charles Albright from Scotland Yard. And I don't find your answers convincing. What is a Pembroke doctor doing in the West End at this time of night?
For the Ascalon Club. Here is my permit to go freely about the city.
The Ascalon Club? You should have said so, sir. I must warn you, these streets are dangerous, and you'd better be careful.
What can you tell me about this district?
I'm the one asking questions, especially when there's a killer on the loose.
What killer?
I'm not going to discuss that with the civilians, sir.
Haven't I told you about the investigation I'm conducting? Perhaps I could help you.
All right, without giving you too much information, I'll tell you this. I'm convinced there is a homicidal maniac on the loose, using the epidemic to disguise his kills.
And what about the epidemic?
We both know the situation is critical, don't we, Doctor? Colleagues of mine die almost every day.
What are you really doing here?
I told you. I'm a detective inspector from Scotland Yard, investigating suspicious cases in the area.
Do you work alone?
Yes. The situation is difficult for the police. Many of us are sick, and since the summer strike, most men apply a work to rule on their patrols.
What about the situation in the East End? Why are there no police there to protect the civilians?
I know, it's a shame, but we just don't have enough men to cover the entire city.
Why are you investigating at night?
Criminals rarely act in daylight, you know. But since you are also a night worker, have you noticed anything strange, which requires police attention?
I'd like to report a name, Inspector. Jeffrey McCullum. I'm afraid he's some sort of vigilante, trying to recruit an army of angry citizens.
Then I'll write the name down and transmit this intelligence to the appropriate office. Thank you, sir.
Tell me all you know about that homicidal maniac you're looking for.
I'm not even sure there is only one. The wounds are always the same, but the modus operandi varies. Sometimes violent and brutal, sometimes precise and swift.
How could different killers inflict the same wounds?
That's my main problem. If my theory is correct, maybe we're facing a group of individuals sharing the same violent tendencies. Perhaps a sadist cult.
What are you investigating, exactly?
I have a missing woman, possibly abducted a few nights ago. Louise Teasdale. It seems you already found my other missing person, Mr. Tadao Kimura.
Tell me about Louise Teasdale.
She's a waitress. Our father reported her missing. We don't have enough men to search for her, sadly.
Do you have any idea where she could be?
No. But I feel she's been abducted. She went to a pub a few nights ago and vanished. I thought about the sewers, but I'm not equipped for such an investigation.
What are you in?
I have a...
Tell me,
she's a...
do you have...
No.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Reed. Can I be of assistance?
Dr. Reed? Dr. Reed?
Is there anything wrong?
No, it's just... your name sounds familiar. And your face. Have we met before?
I think I would remember. So I suppose the answer is no.
That's odd. I'm certain I've already heard of you. My name is Pericles Baker. Does that mean anything to you?
I'm afraid not, sir. But it's a pleasure to meet you anyway.
The pleasure is mine, I guess. I only wish I could remember when it was that we met.
Tell me about yourself, Mr. Baker. What are you doing out here in the middle of the night?
We are waiting. Waiting for someone.
And why are you waiting for this person?
Because we need to leave this city. As soon as possible.
Why do you want to leave the city?
I'm not really... Be sure.
Can you tell me anything about this district?
As you like asking questions so much, would you allow me to ask you one first?
Please, be my guest.
Do you like this city?
I know we are not living in the most peaceful of times, but I have learned to appreciate London's complexity.
Yes, me too. This city tests us. It invites us to find ourselves, to discover our true nature scattered throughout its dark streets.
But what if we don't like what we find?
Do we ever know who we are? I wonder sometimes. Or maybe it is the journey to find out who we are that changes us.
And what do you do, sir? For a living, that is.
I stopped working when I decided to leave. When I realized what I wanted. Wanted something this city can't provide.
But what were you doing before you took this decision?
Does it really matter anymore? Considering the past seems so pointless to me. I have lived in this city all my life. And now I think it's over.
Tell me more about why you want to leave London, then.
I just don't belong here anymore. I had to convince my brother to leave London because I know we need to find another life out of the city.
Who are you waiting for? I'm sure he has a name.
I really can't answer that question, since I don't know that person.
And why is that?
This person is mostly my brother's acquaintance. I don't even know his real name. Only that this man could help us leave this city once and for all.
But why would you need this person's help to leave London anyway?
Well, I thought we should have left this cursed place already, but my brother convinced me to stay a while longer, and here we are.
Goodbye, Mr. Baker. Good evening, sir. I am Dr. Jonathan Reed. Do you need my help?
Yes, please. Would you be kind enough to tell me what the time is?
That's all you need to know.
Well, is it not important to know? As important as where you are? Or who you are?
I suppose you're right. And who are you then, sir?
I am Agamemnon Baker. Like my brother, I think we need to leave this city immediately. And my brother and I rarely agree on anything.
May I ask what you're doing outside at this hour of night?
I don't know. You should ask my brother instead. It was his idea in the first place.
You must have your own ideas.
From what I have managed to understand, I guess we're supposed to wait here. Waiting for someone to come.
May I ask why you've not gone already, if you're so exasperated by this long wait?
I believe fear is holding us back. My brother would have said it's laziness, but it's just because he's prouder than I am.
What can you tell me about this part of town?
It's the only place I've considered myself happy. Or at least that's what I believe. Unfortunately, it's time to leave.
Why is that?
Because I'm not feeling happy here anymore. Are you?
I still enjoy living in London, no matter how difficult it can be sometimes.
Then I am sincerely happy for you. True happiness in life seems to be the most difficult goal to reach these days.
What can you tell me about your brother?
He's older than me, I think. But the important thing is that I really hope I'll die before him. Grief would just kill me, you know?
Is that all?
Pericles is very attached to this city, and without my insistence, he would never leave this place. We don't often agree on anything, you see.
Who are you waiting for, exactly?
The more I think about it, the more I believe it's not exactly a person we are waiting for.
But what else could it be, then?
I don't know. A feeling? An event? An impulse? How can I tell? Something that would allow us to leave this trap.
I'm afraid I'm not following you. What kind of trap are you talking about?
Have you ever felt like life trapped you in a role that does not fit you? That you're not in your place? That sort of trap.
Trap? And you think leaving London will free you?
At least it will give us the chance to be free. That's more than our present situation. Hope, Doctor. Hope is what truly drives mankind.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Baker.
Hello again.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Baker. Good evening. Pericles, tell me why your brother disagrees with your presence here.
Agamemnon is naive sometimes. Although don't consider him a fool, sir. He is often more lucid than me.
At least you both have the same difficulty explaining what you're doing, and for what reason.
But is that not a common problem for all mortals?
What can you tell me about your brother?
If you are searching for a pleasant chat, you should speak with him instead of wasting your time with me. He's always been the more gentle of us.
That's it? That's all you can tell me about him?
For the time being, true kindness is the most valuable quality, my good sir.
Goodbye, Mr. Baker.
Hello again, Dr. Reed.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Baker.
should be far from town already.
All right. But where would we go?
Anywhere. Anywhere that isn't here.
And what is that, by the way?
A safer place? A less strange place?
And where would that be? Life is strange, and we are alive.
For now, yes. But for how long?
If we decided to flee, we should be far from town already.
All right. But where would we go?
Again.
Tell me, how long have you been waiting here?
I can't say for sure, since I have no watch. But the night is still young, and I am not tired.
Is that the most honest answer you can give me?
Yes, I think so. Why does it irritate you, sir? Is comprehension really that important to you?
I'm a scientist. I try my best to understand things. I know the world has to obey unbreakable rules.
You know, or you want the world to obey such rules?
I know one thing. I do not understand who you are.
And it's better that way. What kind of life would we live if we could summarize a person in a few words or a few lines?
What are you really afraid of, Agamemnon?
The problem is, it's precisely what I don't know that frightens me. So I suppose I can't really answer your question.
If you finally manage to leave London, where do you intend to go?
A happy place, that's for sure. A place where I can smile because I know the next day will be better than the previous one.
Such a place doesn't exist. There are never any guarantees that tomorrow will be a better day.
That would mean I have no hope left. And I just can't accept such a conclusion.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Baker. Good evening, Mr. Baker.
Why do I always have feelings of déjà vu when I talk to you?
Tell me more about your strange feelings towards the city.
I would be happy to describe them, but it's too hard to explain with mere words what I'm feeling. It's unclear, too confused.
Go on, please.
Where should I start? The world is chaos. Men go mad, and nature itself runs roughshod over us all.
This is not the first time mankind has faced a deadly epidemic, or a war.
Men kill each other, while nature decides to kill them all. I don't know what scares me the most. Do you?
Both can be disastrous, and a combination of the two merely increases their potency.
And what if they were just a sign of worse disasters to come? Something of biblical proportions, I wonder.
How long have you been waiting for this man?
Sometimes I feel as though I've been waiting for him for ages. Perhaps it is my role in life to wait for him. Not a pleasant thought.
It could be dangerous for you, waiting here all night.
That's quite true. But what other choice do we have? We are waiting here until we finally go.
Mr. Baker, I have met many strange people during my life, but you are definitely one of the strangest.
Really? I don't feel particularly odd or weird. All I want to do is leave. What's wrong with that?
Why are you still waiting for this person?
What would be the point of going before meeting the man, as he's going to help us leave?
Heracles, what are you going to do now?
I don't know. Perhaps it's time to leave. Perhaps we should stay a little longer. How can I tell?
And where exactly are you thinking of going?
In a place where I will finally have that feeling, to be where I belong. The world has to be meaningless chaos to make such a heaven plausible.
Goodbye, Mr. Baker.
I hope you can stay a little longer this time.
Dr. Reed,
I cannot enter.
Be careful, Carol. You're wasting good food here.
Yes, Mother.
I said be careful, child. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Mummy has been so clumsy again.
No, that's okay. It won't bleed for long.
You're so pale. Are you feeling sick? Do you need to see a doctor?
No, I'm fine. I already saw the doctor last week.
Don't be silly. You must see a doctor. Just don't tell him how clumsy your mummy is, all right? I love you so much, my baby.
I love you too, Mother.
Dr. Reed, I am glad to see you again.
Oh, I am sorry. I can't help you, sir.
Good evening, Miss Price. I'm Dr. Reed. Do you remember me?
Dr. Reed? Yes, of course. You are the doctor who healed me and my mum. Good evening, Dr. Reed.
Good to see you too, Carol. Are you all right?
Oh, yes. I did not hurt myself recently. I know how to take care of myself now. I'm almost a grown-up.
Why are you awake at night, Carol?
I am helping my mother in her shop. It's not easy, but I'm a grown-up now.
I'm sure your mother is grateful for your help.
I do the best I can. But I'm so clumsy sometimes. I drop things. I injure myself. It's a good thing my mother has the patience of an angel.
Why is work not easy? Is something or someone bothering you?
Oh no, most people are gentle with me. But I'm so nervous sometimes. I pay no attention and hurt myself. Good thing my mum learned first aid.
What can you tell me of the people living nearby?
I don't speak to many people, except our customers. It's not easy to make friends. With the epidemic, it's even more difficult.
What can you tell me about the epidemic?
Some of our regular customers have left London. Some others only send their housemaids now. Everybody fears the contagion. I've even seen men with weapons.
Have you no friends at all?
No. Mr. Nithercote used to pass by and was always nice to me.
Does he not come by anymore?
No. Mum said he was weird. Always reciting poetry about a girl he'd met in Whitechapel. I wonder who this camellia may be.
What can you...
I don't speak...
What can you tell...
I don't speak...
Is it true you often hurt yourself, Carol?
Yes, it's true. I try to behave, I really do. But one way or another, I always end up injured or wounded. I'm so stupid.
Why would you be stupid?
It's like I can't help getting under my mother's feet. That's how I end up being pushed, cut, or burned. You see, I'm a stupid girl, really.
When exactly do these accidents happen?
Ever since I was little. That's why I need to stay with Mum. I'm not capable of taking care of myself.
Do you enjoy working with your mother?
Oh yes, Doctor. My mother raised me alone after my father died. We've always lived together, and she has always watched over me.
Do you remember your father?
No, I was just a baby then. My mother always told me how strong and good he was.
Do you ever think about getting married, now you're a woman?
Oh no, Dr. Reed. Mum always says I'm still a child who has no idea how tough life can be. No husband would like a clumsy girl like me.
Goodbye, Carol.
Good morning. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Miss Price. How are you tonight?
Dr. Reed, I didn't know you had returned from the war. I had a new doctor when you left, but he's not as kind as you.
Always glad to see a former patient in good condition. It's been a long time.
Too long indeed. And as a token of my appreciation, I'll grant you the best price if you fancy buying anything from my humble shop.
May I look at your goods, Miss Price?
It's always a pleasure to have you here, Dr. Reed. Take all the time you need.
Perhaps you should talk with someone else instead.
Good evening.
You know...
What can you tell me about yourself, Miss Price?
I'm still managing my shop. The only difference is, since the quarantine, we're open at night. You, on the contrary, seem to have changed a lot.
Really? Have I changed that much? It must have been the war. And the night shifts since my return.
Don't get me wrong, Dr. Reed, you're still handsome. Just maybe a little bit wiser, more serious. It suits you well.
Tell me more about yourself. No new fiancé? I remember you were hoping to get remarried. I'm sure you must have a few suitors.
Who would marry an old bat like myself with a grown daughter and a little business? As you know, I only fancy handsome men like yourself.
Have you noticed anything in particular in this part of town recently?
Other than you coming back to cheer me up? Nothing at all, Dr. Reed.
Carol's gratitude is exemplary. She seems determined never to leave you.
I'm taking care of my daughter as well as I can. It's not always easy, but she's the best gift life gave me.
But she'll probably leave you someday to live her own life. Will that be difficult for you?
Why would she leave? Children sometimes stay with their parents until the end, for they know no one else will love them as much.
Tell me, Carolyn, do you often wound or hurt your daughter by mistake?
No. I always thought it was Carol's clumsiness that caused these incidents. Maybe it's a family trait, Doctor.
You really believe it's just bad luck and being clumsy, then?
Of course, Doctor. What else could it be? I have nothing to hide.
You are responsible for your daughter's many injuries and scars, Carolyn. You brutalize her, don't you?
How could I abuse my own flesh and blood? This is nonsense. It would be like hurting myself.
You really believe you've done nothing wrong, don't you? How long has this been going on for? I should have seen it when you were my patients.
Seen what? Child abuse? Are you mad, Dr. Reed? I dedicated my whole life to my precious Carol. She is a part of me.
Yes. Even her name is just a part of yours. This is a terrible tragedy. Something of an unknown disorder. My God. Abuse that comes from overwhelming love.
I can't believe what I'm hearing. How dare you say something like that? What kind of a monster do you think I am?
Speak to me, Carolyn. Why do you behave like this? How does it make you feel to hurt Carol before cajoling her?
I don't know. It makes me feel good to take care of my daughter. I need to feel useful. No one ever takes care of me. I need someone to take care of me.
Do you realize Carol is a person? Not a toy, not a doll. The poor girl would put her hand in a flame to please you. You are both trapped in this toxic relationship.
Carol and I are perfectly happy. Leave us be. How stupid I was to believe you could be a suitable husband.
I'm not judging you, Carolyn. I believe you're a victim too. I'm just trying to explain that you need medical help.
You will not separate me from my flesh and blood, Dr. Reed. We'd rather die.
Does your daughter still worry you, Miss Price? I remember you were often concerned about her health when she was younger.
Have you not seen Carol since you returned? She's almost a young woman now. But she'll always remain my sweet little baby.
So you're less afraid?
Some things never change. Carol is still too clumsy for her own good. Sometimes her innocence puts her in real danger.
Why would her innocence put her in danger?
She does not realize how cruel life can be. Maybe I was a bad mother to protect her too much. My poor dear Carol.
You have every reason to be cautious, Miss Price. Especially in these difficult times.
Maybe you could talk with her, Dr. Reed. It would be nice to have a man here more often. We would both feel safer.
Goodbye for now, Miss Price.
I hope you can stay a little longer this time.
Good evening.
You know,
Ma-
it's always a pleasure.
Good evening.
My mother always prefers when people simply call me Carol.
You need to understand you are in danger, Carol. Your mother is responsible for all your injuries.
That's a lie. She has always taken good care of me. She only gets irritated when I get under her feet. It's my fault. My mum loves me so much.
Yes, Carol. Your mother believes she loves you as much as you're convinced she loves you. But you are both trapped in a toxic relationship that puts you in danger.
What are you saying? That she lied to me all these years? That she wants me to be miserable? My mother has dedicated her life to my safety.
You have always been in danger, Carol. And I'm afraid the situation will only get worse. Your mother is capable of killing her own daughter.
No. My mum loves me and only wants the best for me. It's my fault if I can never do anything right. She deserved a better girl than me.
Goodbye, Carol.
Good morning. Good evening, sir.
What has happened to the London that I knew? Doctor?
What are you investigating?
I have a
Tell me.
She's awake.
Do you have...
No.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, Dr. Jonathan.
London will survive the epidemic.
It's locked,
I
all right.
see terrible trials awaiting in the future. Jonathan Reed. At last we meet. The cards warned me you would visit tonight.
I beg your pardon, sir. Do I know you?
Of course you do. Our mutual friend, Dr. Swansea, can't speak highly enough of you. My name is Usher. Usher Talltree.
You are the leader of the Brotherhood, are you not?
Primate of the Brotherhood of St. Paul's Stole, to be precise. I'm really glad we met tonight. I love it when the cards tell me a truth.
The cards told you to expect me.
Yes, they can tell me everything. They told me that you have not taken another life since your poor sister died.
What can you tell me about the neighborhood?
I really don't know. I don't often go outside. And when I do, it's usually to quite distant destinations.
So you see nothing in the stars for me? You're a poor fortune teller, then?
Oh, I can tell you many things, but they will only concern you, not the city. For example, I know that you offered your sister the final rest she asked for.
Do the cards speak of my Mary?
No. It's the burning aura of guilt that precedes you everywhere you go.
Read my fortune, then.
You have been chosen, Jonathan. I see on you the mark of a strong being, so powerful it needn't even reveal its strength.
Tell me about yourself. What do you do here, besides turning cards in the middle of the night?
I'm for most a charlatan. For a few, I'm a vampire. And for you, I'm the primate of St. Paul's Stole.
Some believe you to be a vampire. Who?
The Guard of Priwen, who else? For a time, they sent spies to observe my activities, and they even broke into my home to gather proof.
Did they steal anything from you?
A personal notebook they quickly took to their headquarters. All they had to do is to look at me. I'm aging. What better and definite proof that I'm not an immortal?
Do you want your notebook back?
If you ever find it, I'd be glad to have it back, of course. I do ask one thing, though. Do not read it, Jonathan. Some secrets are not meant to be revealed, even to immortals.
For how long have you been a primate?
It was 15 years last year.
What do you make of Dr. Swansea?
Edgar is a brilliant and dedicated man. A man of his time. Sometimes a little muddled, but always looking for new paths and new concepts.
Can you read the cards for me?
Are you sure you want to know what they will reveal?
Yes, I am.
It will cost you 150 shillings.
Perhaps later. Can you read the cards for me?
Put the money on the table then, Jonathan, and open your mind.
Here is the money.
The glutton. A man who just eats life as a cake. A righteous ego, surprised to fall in love.
How do you measure the amount of blood on my hands?
I told you. The cards always tell the truth. Well, most of the time.
Is it possible to tell me my future?
A vampire's fate is much more delicate to read, Doctor. But I can try.
I would rather not know. How do you measure the amount of blood on my hands?
I told you. The cards always tell the truth. Well, most of the time.
Is it possible to tell me my future?
A vampire's fate is much more delicate to read, Doctor. But I can try.
All right. Let me hear it.
You're on a path to redemption, Jonathan. But be careful. One single trip and you'll fall.
That doesn't sound promising.
Take this, young Ekon, as a personal reward for your strong will. Keep following the right path and you'll reach safety.
How did you learn about Mary? And spare me the hocus-pocus parlor tricks. The truth, now!
Swansea told me. Don't look at me like that. His task is to observe and gather information about vampires. He had to tell me about Mary.
Mary did not deserve her fate. She had already suffered enough during her life. And yet the pain and the suffering went on after her death.
Suffering is part of the immortal condition. Some prefer to lose their minds rather than face the simple truth. Pain will never stop.
May I ask you about the Brotherhood?
Of course. But I must warn you that there are some subjects we consider taboo, in spite of our fondness and acceptance of your kind.
I know there is no love lost between the Guard of Priwen and the Brotherhood. What caused this rift?
It was 1801. The Brotherhood was stronger then, a strength that made them hungry for ever greater power. An argument divided them, and the wound never healed.
What was the nature of the disagreement?
The problem was that both sides considered themselves the legitimate heirs of the original Brotherhood. We divide up the books, the relics, not always fairly or with consideration.
Who founded the Brotherhood?
That's precisely the kind of question I cannot answer. It is delicate, and may reveal some of our secret traditions.
So you're not just a club of academics and scholars?
Once upon a time, very long ago, the Brotherhood did more than simply study the vampires. They took actions to eliminate the more ferocious and corrupted.
Who founded the Brotherhood?
That's precisely the kind of question I cannot answer. It is delicate, and may reveal some of our secret traditions.
So you're not just a club of academics and scholars?
Once upon a time, very long ago, the Brotherhood did more than simply study the vampires. They took actions to eliminate the more ferocious and corrupted.
Goodbye, sir. Until we meet again.
I rarely wander, yet it amuses me to converse with your kind. Perhaps London will survive the epidemic, but I see terrible trials awaiting in the future.
It's locked, all right. A restaurant where the guests are blindfolded before being seated. Intriguing.
Easy!
It has been such a long time. Good evening, Doctor.
Calhoun, tell me about your relationship with Doris Fletcher.
Oh, Doris. Cold fire and burning ice trapped in a perfect body. Our passion was as intense as it was brief. What an actress.
How did you meet her?
On a boat to France before the war. She was thinking about a career in Paris, and I was eager to try French gastronomy. We both returned disappointed.
I expect you've seen her on stage, too.
She really is the best actress of her generation. Such frailty and such strength at the same time. I hope she'll play again soon. She's been away for too long.
You sound surprisingly sad. Have you regrets?
I think of her as a divine dish. I'm glad I was able to taste it, but I regret I could only get a bite of her mystery.
You really loved her then?
She fascinated me, Dr. Reed. I can't imagine what she must have endured through her life to reach such a level of emotion and sensibility.
So, did you try the restaurant I recommended?
Oh, yes. I can't thank you enough, my dear doctor. Exquisite, but expensive. But what is money made for, if not for little pleasures?
You disgusting pig. People are dying of hunger and poverty in this very city while you eat your fancy meals.
Your words hurt, Doctor. I thought you and I were friends. But since you ask, I'm rich enough to finance my passions. And various charities across the city.
Perhaps my words were too harsh. Please forgive me if I've upset you.
Oh, no harm done. After I die, all my fortune will go to the suffering people of the East End. Until then, I aspire to live the most pleasant life possible.
I may have a look at your goods, Mr. Russell. Goodbye,
Let any strangers come into your house.
Good evening, old chap. Are you all right?
I won't lie to you, Johnny. I'm not well.
Do you realize you are ruining your family, Clarence? Don't you see the risk here?
Money isn't important. Not important when it is a matter of life and death. That is what my dear Venus cannot understand.
People will laugh at you, if they don't already. Think about your wife and your position. Think about your future.
I understand my wife's embarrassment, but gossips don't kill, vampires do. There'll be no future if people don't open their eyes.
I can't believe I'm telling you this, but if warning people is that important to you, why not choose a more efficient way to spend your money?
Don't you think I tried? I knocked at every door, went to every bank, I even tried to be published. No, Jonathan. This is a one-man war.
These are the documents you wanted me to look for. I think I've gathered all the available occult research about vampires.
Oh, thank you, Johnny. That'll help me separate the myths from the facts.
I'm not sure you can consider this material factual, but it's yours now. What do you intend to do with it?
First, I'm going to show them to Venus. It'll open her eyes and make her understand the importance of my mission.
You need some rest. Hello, Venus.
Hello, John. You know that you are always welcome here, but... What do you need from me, Jonathan?
What do you think about Clarence squandering his fortune on his obsession?
Soon we'll be poor, and forced to sell the house. Where will we go? In which filthy, infected part of town will we end up? I'm so afraid.
Did Clarence recently show you documents that prove the existence of vampires?
Yes, he did. And he also told me you spent a few nights gathering research for him. Seriously, Jonathan. Why feed his obsession like that?
He's my friend. I thought it might help him rest, instead of going outside at night. Tell me, what are your thoughts about vampires?
Gibberish and poppycock. Dracula was a good book, but these documents were just mumbo-jumbo. I burnt them all as soon as Clarence went outside again.
Goodbye for now.
You know that you are always welcome here, but at this hour of night? At least you survived.
They're all around you, waiting for you to let your guard down.
Good evening.
I won't.
You need some
Women of all countries unite!
Spending next summer in France. Absolutely. Why not?
Yes?
goodbye.
Of course, Miss Reed worries me, Mr. John. She sometimes...
It's locked.
Yes, Jonathan. Spending next summer in France.
Good evening, Miss Teasdale. How have you been since you returned home?
Dr. Reed,
Oh, thank God you returned safely from these awful streets. I was so worried about my father that I left without thanking you properly.
Please don't mention it, miss.
Good. I found him, you know. My dad. Or what was left of him. I think my abductor intended to do the same thing to me.
Do you need my medical attention, miss?
I don't need your help specifically. I can assure you there are many competent doctors around.
I have no doubt about it, but I'm offering you my help anyway.
All right then. But please leave me alone for now.
What do you do for a living, Miss Teasdale?
Before my kidnapping, I was a waitress in a pub. Now I'm unemployed.
Were you fired?
No. It's just that after my recent experience, I don't feel like I can go back to my normal life. I need to do something useful.
Be very careful, Miss Teasdale. You are lucky to escape death once, but vampires lurk everywhere.
You killed my kidnapper by yourself, didn't you? No offense, Doctor, but you're just a doctor. I don't see why I couldn't do the same.
What do you intend to do?
Dad always told me, Louise, if you want something, don't stop until you have it. I did my research and I found it. Ichabod Throgmorton, professional vampire hunter. I'll be his apprentice.
What can you tell me about this area?
I've never really liked this part of town. It was where my father wanted to live. I won't remain here much longer.
What exactly don't you like about it?
People here are contemptuous and elitist. My dad always said, Louise, always treat people like you want them to treat you.
Why did your father feel guilty? He seemed so eager to welcome you back, as though he'd done something wrong.
Last time we saw each other, we had a terrible argument. I left the house and ended up in a pub. That's where the vampire met me. Dead drunk.
I see.
We argued a lot, me and Dad. But I always came home. I'm sure that's why he went to find me. He knew something bad had happened.
Your father never gave up on you. In the end, he risked everything to save the daughter he loved.
Yeah, that was my dad. Tough bastard, just like me. Even if I'd broken his leg, he would have gone looking for me.
What do you mean?
That last argument we had, it was more of a fight, actually. He slapped me and I kicked him hard in the balls.
Louise, tell me what you really think about your father's sacrifice to save you.
I'm proud he went after me. I forgive him all his harsh words, all his bloody attitudes. I only wish I could tell him how much I loved him.
Yes. It can be traumatic, not having the chance to say goodbye to those we love.
Yes, Doctor. And there's no treatment for that type of pain, isn't that right? That may be the last thing my father taught me.
Louise, what can you tell me about the vampire who captured you?
The little fucker claimed he'd fallen in love with me. That he wanted to spend eternity with me. Not a bad idea. At least that's the way it seemed at first.
Really? Did you consider accepting his proposal?
Well, immortality. Not a common wedding gift, is it? I think he just wanted to have his way with me. Can vampires even fuck, Doctor?
What? Well, I really can't answer that. Well, since they are creatures of blood, physically speaking, I suppose an erection is possible, but
Don't be embarrassed, Dr. Reed. I was just asking.
You seem to cherish your father a great deal.
Dad was the best. Kept an eye on me, but let me make my own mistakes. Louise used to say, mistakes are the best teacher. You would have liked him.
I'm sorry you didn't have the opportunity to say goodbye.
That's all right. He's buried in consecrated ground now. Nothing bad can happen to him.
Goodbye, Miss Teasdale. And be careful. Until we meet again.
Whether you need to buy something or not, I'm happy to help. Good evening.
I may have...
Why can't I forgive you, Father?
It's illegal! There's one of them vermin!
I have this thirst for blood. I can't believe I'm doing this. Cannot enter.
so much pain to me. Why don't I want to leave?
We meet again, Mr. Kimura, in a more peaceful situation.
Dr. Reed, still visiting London by night?
We must both be nocturnal animals, you and I. After your captivity, I thought you'd be more cautious.
Breathing the cold night air helps calm my mind, sir. I've had the most frightening nightmares since I escaped that filthy jail.
How is the situation in the West End?
I've heard rumors about armed men patrolling and fighting infected citizens in these very streets. I was lucky they didn't shoot me when I was abducted.
May I ask you what you do for a living, Mr. Kimura?
I was a landlord. A wealthy one. And not a very kind one, I realized recently.
Why this sudden epiphany? Is it because of your near-death experience?
I was already feeling nostalgic about Weymouth, my hometown. With recent events, I'm thinking about going back there.
Why are you so nostalgic for your hometown, Tadao?
I was focused so much on making money, I almost forgot that my relatives and friends are threatened by this epidemic.
Have you heard anything from your family?
I was not only a bad landlord, I was also a bad husband. I've not seen my wife and son for years. Busy, busy, busy.
At least now you're ready to go back and see them. But don't be surprised if your son bears a grudge, sir.
You make it sound like you suffered from an absent father yourself, Dr. Reed. Well, I'll keep your warning in mind.
Have you no friends at all?
Over the years, I'm afraid my greed turned me into my friend's adversary, while I became friends with my professional rivals.
Those you grew up with didn't share your views on money and success.
Would you believe I was once a member of poetry circles and an astronomy club? We were young, such joyful dreamers then. But I stopped laughing long ago.
Can you change? And is it what you really want? If so, it must come from within, not without.
I've seen what an altruistic gesture can do. Nothing forced you to save me, Dr. Reed, but you did. I will follow your example in these matters from now on.
There is no need to thank me. Rescuing a London citizen should not be out of the ordinary, though I'm afraid it may appear so in these difficult times.
You did not only rescue me, you fought for me. You put your life in danger to save me. That's quite extraordinary.
How will you cope if you're attacked again?
I don't know. I've heard about these men and women who patrol the West End every night, chasing criminals like my abductor. Maybe I should join them.
What can you tell me about your abduction?
If you really want to know, I was locked in that building for 3 or 4 days. My jailer was insane, mumbling about sacrifice and voices.
And why didn't he sacrifice you?
That was the weirdest part. He claimed to spill blood was not enough. It had to be done when some stars were aligned.
Which stars?
That's the whole point. He wanted me to talk to him about some Red Queen configuration or constellation. I've never heard of such an astronomical term.
What did he say about voices?
He constantly whined about the voice of his master, ordering him to do terrible things. He wanted to silence the voice by offering blood. My blood.
Tell me, Tadao, why was your abductor so interested in your passion for astronomy?
I don't know. We met a few times at the Royal Greenwich Observatory. He seemed to share my hobby. Then he invited me to his house and locked me in.
Yes, astronomy is a fascinating subject. When I was a child, my mother bought a small telescope for my sister and I. We spent many a pleasant evening stargazing.
Stars are not just dots in the sky, Doctor. They are the key to our understanding of the cosmos. They remind us how insignificant we are.
You're right. But children love magic and stories. I remember our mother told us constellations have the power to protect us.
Protection by the light of the stars. That's sweet. You remember the name of these constellations?
Pegasus. It was the constellation my mother liked the most.
Memory's a strange thing. I can recite without hesitation the names of the 88 constellations. Yet I barely remember my own childhood.
Did he fake his interest in astronomy to get close to you?
No. In his madness, he spoke about a blood sacrifice to be made to his master when the stars aligned to a specific configuration.
Goodbye, Mr. Kimura. Take care.
I almost forgot what it feels like.
I will return at a more convenient time. It's locked, all right. I cannot enter.
It's one of them! We have to stop it! It's on to us!
Good evening, Dr. Tibbets.
Dr. Reed.
Do you need any...
Yes.
I have...
I appreciate...
Goodbye.
Time has lost its effect on me.
The daily routine.
Good evening, Miss... Do you require...
My condition...
Well...
Thank you, Doctor.
I'll leave...
Time has lost its effect on me. But the suffering continues.
I'm quite...
Do you need my assistance?
Not at all.
Thank you for your... Good evening. Good evening. Do you need... Would have... Goodbye, Doc. It's locked. It's locked. It's locked.
What news, Jonathan? I've heard you've now joined the vampire elite of London.
Did Elizabeth tell you?
So it's Elizabeth now. My. Things are moving quickly. I turn my back for a moment and away you go.
Have you seen Lady Ashbury recently?
Yes, she popped in yesterday.
Told me about your new friends in the West End.
Just a courtesy visit, then.
Yes. And no. She was en route to the docks, I think, following a lead concerning your maker.
I may have found the source of the contagion. Doris Fletcher, the actress. Thankfully, in the end, she was destroyed by fire.
Really? Oh, please, do tell me more.
Doris was a heavily mutated skull. Almost a new breed entirely. It's as if the disease had completely altered her mind and body. Highly contagious.
As if the disease had taken control of her will?
Yes. Once a beautiful and brilliant woman, she became motivated by hate alone.
Oh, she was a beauty. I met her when she visited the hospital to cheer up the sick. Too bad the fire destroyed her. But it was probably for the best.
Have you heard of similar cases?
No, I don't think so. Except, perhaps, it reminds me of an old report from the Brotherhood. Well, more an article, really.
What was it about?
The author, a friar, referred to a rare form of contagion in a skull he observed during the Black Death. The carrier was always female. They called them Icors.
How's the situation at the Pembroke?
We're still holding out. Question is, for how long? What we really need is hope, Jonathan. Hope for a better tomorrow.
I'll come back later. Thank you, Edgar.
Always a pleasure to see you, my friend.
Good evening.
And good evening.
Do you need my...
I would have been...
There is no...
Any doctors I...
Another night with the glorious battalion.
Good evening.
Good evening. Wise choice, Doctor.
It's a leech! Oh my god! Best be moving on. Last warning, sir!
Been a while since we've seen any new
Good evening.
Hello again.
Have you got any news about Sean Hampton's shelter?
As long as he keeps on helping the poor, I'll keep my boys at bay, even if he pisses them off.
Can I see?
As long as you have money.
Good evening.
Hello again.
Can I offer...
Giving help.
Perhaps...
Pleasure, sir. Been a while since
Good evening, Mrs. Fishburne.
Of course. Please don't stay too long, sir.
It's locked.
What can I do?
Mrs. Fish...
I am afraid
Then...
I thank you.
Do you have any news about Sean Hampton's shelter?
I just heard the sad saint keeps on helping the sick and poor. God bless his soul.
Aren't you worried about the conditions around here?
Hate everywhere. The city will not sink because of this flu. It's the violence that will finish us all.
Goodbye, Miss Fish.
I'm not sure the epidemic is what worries people most.
just run as far away from this place as I can. He didn't deserve this.
Good evening, sir. I'm amazed you made it back to the docks alone. Good for you.
Well, I could say the same about you, young man. More to the point, who the hell are you?
I'm Dr. Jonathan Reed.
And I am Archer Woodbead. Please excuse my assertiveness. I often forget I'm just an old prune.
What can you tell me about this part of town?
People used to feel safe around here. They had the gangs protecting them. Now all they do is bicker and plot against one another.
Missing the good old days, are you not?
Trust me, son. The longer you live, the less meaning your existence will have. You need to remember the days you still had beliefs.
And what about the gangs?
Back in my day, people trusted the Wet Boot Boys. We looked out for the docks and its families. Nowadays, they're just a bunch of greedy fuckers.
You were a gang member?
I was their leader for a time, believe it or not. Now these bastards act like I'm nothing. Not one of them. They owe me some damn respect.
Do you need my medical attention, sir?
Unfortunately, yes. The spirit is willing, but the flesh, well, you know.
Nobody is immune to disease. There's no need to be ashamed of that.
Well, thank you, Doctor. Now maybe I'll live another day or two.
Do you have any recent news on Sean Hampton's shelter?
The man is still here. He's trying to help others despite the terrible things he endured. I'm impressed.
Are you worried about the sanitary situation in London?
I never thought I'd live to see the last days of London. Just another thing I was wrong about, I suppose.
Have you always been so bitter?
It's not bitterness, it's poorly masked disgust. When everything turns to shit, we all have to eat a spoon or two.
Don't you think that the old people of your time were saying exactly the same thing about you and your friends?
Perhaps you're right, Dr. Reed. Well, I hope you'll not be around to see things turn sad and grey.
Tell me everything you know about the Guard of Priwen.
Andrew never told me what they do. I do know they're vigilantes with military training. Access to some impressive firepower.
And what is your personal opinion about the Guard, then?
This Guard of Priwen is just another gang preying on the young and naive. Preying on people like my boy. I know how it works. I invented it.
Tell me about the Wet Boot Boys, Archer. I want to know more.
We were there for the families and each other. It was us against the world. We were vicious, tough, even cruel. But we were united.
You sound like you were some kind of radical union member.
Yes, nowadays the communists and gangs squabble over pointless territory. Sounds stupid when you say it out loud.
Why did your son really join the Guard of Priwen?
If I believed in a higher power, I'd see this as punishment for my own sins. I deserve it for all the young men I enlisted back in the day.
You don't believe in God, though, do you, Mr. Woodbead? So why did he join?
Now I think about it, Andrew joined the Guard, not to defy me, but to follow in my footsteps, to make me proud.
So your son has left you nothing to explain his actions? No letter or message?
Not even a note. I'm a proud man, Dr. Reed. But I would kneel and pray if I thought it would give me my Andrew back.
What can you tell me about this part of town?
People used to feel safe around here. They had the gangs protecting them. Now all they do is bicker and plot against one another.
If you were such a respected figure, surely you have many interesting stories about this part of town.
You bet I do, but make no mistake. I'm no rat, sir. Some secrets are best left buried.
Do you still know anyone? From the old days, I mean.
Most of them are dead. I still give Miss Gillingham salutations. She doesn't remember me. She did once like me. Boy, she was a beauty back then.
Who would you trust around here?
The owner of the Turquoise Turtle's a decent fella. Tom's his name. Sean Hampton's all right too. Don't particularly share his religious views. He's quite devout, if you catch my meaning.
Any remarkable new faces around here?
Nobody. Well, there's that boy Rufus the Curse. I like him, despite the reputation he's made since his parents died. Poor little bastard.
I'm sure a district as colorful as the docks must have plenty of stories about strange visitors and creepy characters.
So, you want me to talk about the sewer dog, don't you?
If you don't mind.
The sewer dog is a bitch. Appropriately named. An old woman dressed in rags. She has an elegance, though, despite her ugliness. I saw her once. Scared the life out of me.
Goodbye, sir.
Glad to see you again, Mr. Reed.
Do you need my medical attention, Miss Paxton?
I can keep going, Dr. Reed.
Of course you can, Miss Paxton. But I wouldn't recommend it. Please, take this. You will feel better.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Thank you. Really.
Do you have recent news of Sean Hampton's shelter? Are you worried about the sanitary situation in London?
There are rumours of infected people turned mad by the fever and roaming the streets, attacking everyone they see. Is it true?
As long as you stay away from the streets, you should be all right.
I hope you're right, Dr. Reed. We feel kind of left alone around here.
Goodbye, Miss Paxton.
Welcome back to my humble shelter, Dr. Reed. Are you here to subdue me again?
No, Sean. I just came by to see how you are.
I feel all right. Why'd you ask?
Are you still feeding on corpses?
No. It's almost as though the blood you forced me to drink has provided me eternal satisfaction.
How is the sanitary situation in this part of town?
I think it's acceptable. Fewer cases of sickness recently. I thank the Lord for his mercy.
How are things in your shelter? Between the mortals and the immortals, I mean.
Even if we're all children of God, I've always maintained a strict frontier between the two communities.
What do you fear?
A few years ago, a Skal decided to pay a nocturnal visit to my sleeping customers. He got caught licking their necks in the dark. Since then, I have added a lock to the door.
What if food became scarce? Wouldn't the immortals in your flock be tempted to feed on the living? Wouldn't you?
The Skals can feed on the dead, Doctor. And until Judgment Day, mortals will continue dying.
How did you meet old Bridget?
When younger, I used to patrol the streets at night, searching for lost souls. This is how I met her. It took me 2 months just to get her name. Now we support each other.
Had you already visited their hideout in the sewers?
Just once, and very briefly. Most of them are very discreet, and they see me as an outsider, even if I protect them.
You really are a saint, Sean.
Oh, no, sir, I'm not. But I know evil, and I believe goodwill and tenacity can make this world a better place.
Have you seen Harriet Jones since taking her to old Bridget?
No. She is with the sewer Skals now. I don't go downstairs.
What happened at the Pembroke?
I guess we recognized each other. As Skals, I mean. She had but one thought. To punish. To get revenge upon everything and everyone. I realized I had to bring her here quickly.
But why did she fake her own death? There was so much blood in her room. She attacked patients, too.
I just lost her for a minute that night. When I found her, she had caused mayhem across the hospital. I slapped some sense into her, and we fled before getting caught.
What happened then?
We ran here through narrow streets and backyards. She kept saying that someone was talking to her in the dark, offering to avenge her. But I saw nobody.
Would you let me listen to your chest, Sean?
No, Dr. Reed. You already forced me to drink your blood, and I thank you for that, for I feel better now. But it was quite an unpleasant experience.
It would help me greatly if you would allow me to give you a physical examination.
I said no. I'm no subject of medical examination, and I intend only to obey and to kneel before God.
Farewell, Sean. Take good care of your flock, and of yourself.
Much work to do. I know I promised you I'd make everything right.
You again? What do you want?
Do you have recent news of Sean Hampton's shelter?
The place is all right, I suppose. The sad saint is still the same. Except for that awful skin disease he recently got.
Are you worried about the sanitary situation in London?
Chaos is rising, Dr. Reed. This city is about to crumble.
You almost sound happy.
This world needs to die, Dr. Reed. And from the ashes, a new one will emerge, with more equity and freedom.
Well, I'll leave you for now. Goodbye, Miss Paxton.
What have we here?
Lost your horse, Governor? Or are you just out of your mind?
It's locked, all right.
Please, sir. Come and have a gander.
Good evening, young man.
There's no need to call me that, Dr. Reed.
Have you heard anything recently concerning Sean Hampton's shelter?
He keeps investing time helping the poor and sick. Good for him. And for them.
Are you feeling worried about the sanitary situation in London?
This city is falling apart. The disease kills so many people. No one cares about anything or anyone anymore but themselves.
Young man, do you require medical attention?
I don't like asking for help. But I don't want to be one of those poor sods dying in the streets.
There's no shame in asking for help, especially when you are in desperate need of it. Here, take this. You should recover in no time.
Thank you, I suppose.
Show me what you have to offer then, Mr. Nightingale. Good evening, sir. I'm glad to see you safe.
I am not safe. I should never have come back here. My life is in danger. I know it.
You're much safer here than in that contaminated area.
Bullets kill people quicker than diseases and epidemics, Dr. Reed.
Do you have recent news of Sean Hampton's shelter?
I heard he kept on helping people, but I tried to stay away from his shelter. I don't feel safe there.
Are you worried about the sanitary situation in London?
Not really. I've spent so many days hiding to escape retaliation from the Wet Boot Boys. Now that there's so much chaos, they might forget about me.
What can you tell me about this district?
The East End Docks only knows one rule. Dog eat dog, and blood calls for blood. The gang will have their revenge on me one way or another.
What can you tell me about the locals?
Most people would say that Sean Hampton and Tom Watts are good men who try to sort things out. But for me, the real boss around there was my best friend, Jack Gillingham.
Jack Gillingham, you say?
Everyone round there knew Jack. He was a rock. A mountain even. He feared nothing.
Your friend Jack has something to do with you fleeing to the contaminated area where I found you. I want to know more.
Jack is dead. That's all you need to know. Dead because of me. So much violence. So much sorrow. All of that because I refused to be insulted again.
The docks are being consumed by violence. Any war you may have started was already brewing underneath the surface, just waiting for a spark to ignite it.
Perhaps you're right. The district was doomed before I was born. But I cannot stop myself thinking that Jack died for me.
Why do you say that?
After I killed that gang member, the Wet Boot Boy suspected Jack. And being loyal and all, he did not refute the accusation.
You are not going to spend the rest of your life hiding, Rodney. What are you planning to do?
Honestly, I have no idea. How am I supposed to live while so many have suffered because of me?
Only you can answer that question. But one thing is certain. Since you owe Jack your life, I think it's fair to live it in a way that would make him proud.
That's the kind of thing Jack could have said, Dr. Reed. Thank you for that. I believe you're a good guy too.
The death of your friend has affected you deeply, hasn't it?
Jack Gillingham was the real deal. He believed we could change the world if we were united and focused enough. And he brought out the best in each of us.
You're right. He died to save you. That alone gives me an idea of the kind of man he was.
He was the bravest. And no one dares to say openly that he got killed by those bastards.
Your friend's plan was audacious, if not reckless. No one stands up by themselves to a gang like the Wet Boot Boys.
How dare you say that? You never met him.
Goodbye, Mr. Grader. Take care. Good evening, Miss Gillingham.
Of course. So, Dr. Tippets.
Have you heard anything recently concerning Sean Hampton's shelter?
I've never heard that name before, I'm afraid.
Are you worried about the sanitation crisis in London?
Too much noise, too much shouting. It keeps me up. Is it really gunfire I'm hearing?
Miss Gillingham, why did you give Martin Nightingale the watch I returned to you?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I suppose I thought he needed a watch more than I did. I have no reason to really keep track of time anymore.
Why don't you need to keep track of time?
I've spent my entire life marching to the tick of clocks and the ringing of bells. At my age, it's nice to finally be rid of those burdens. On my time.
But it was your son's watch, Miss Gillingham.
It was, wasn't it? I'm relieved you found it. Besides, it's more useful to him anyway.
Goodbye, Miss...
Ugh!